Respected Chairman and friends, good morning once again today. And I'll be speaking on current trends in enhancing fracture healing. Now, why do we need to know about this topic besides the fact that it's asked as a short note in your DNB theory? Dr. Alex has nicely covered the role of iliac crest, which is the gold standard as far as bone healing is concerned, because it has the property of osteogenicity, inductivity, conductivity, and it is also histocompatible and not immunogenic. But then it has its own problems. Autografts lead to a lot of donor site morbidity, hernias, blood loss, and you may not get adequate bone graft if the iliac crest has already been used. And this is where it all started. When people started searching for enhancers in healing. Now, broadly, we can classify bone growth stimulators or methods to stimulate bone growth into 4 variants. There are biologic methods where you use basically growth factors. There are biophysical methods where electromagnetic radiation and ultrasound has been used. There are purely physical methods where you use improved implants, like coating the implants with hydroxyapatite or any such substance which would induce bone growth, and purely chemical agents. So these are agents which are nothing but pharmaceutical drugs which have been known or proven to stimulate bone growth. Let us see them quickly one by one. The biological methods all of them work on the principle of bone induction. Now, this was adequately researched and published by Marshall Urist right as back as 1965, when he first identified BMP, and he postulated that bone matrix contains a few proteins which will induce new bone formation even if you place them extraskeletally. A lot of research has gone into that after this. In fact, 1.5 billion US dollars were spent in the period between 2005 and 2008 to isolate BMP for clinical use. So what is this BMP? It is basically a protein belonging to the transformation growth factor beta superfamily. 20 BMPs have been discovered so far, and their role in bone healing has been identified. The chondrogenic phase of bone healing is where BMPs from 2 to 6 really act, and in the osteogenic phase the BMP7 and BMP8 is useful. But of all these 20 BMPs isolated, it's only 2 which are in clinical use. They are the BMP2 and BMP7, available as these brands commercially. Both are manufactured by recombinant gene technology using bovine sources. How do you use BMP? Both these available products require a carrier, and the carrier usually is a collagen sponge, which is a delivery system. It acts as a scaffold for bone ingrowth, and it also concentrates the BMP locally. Now, there are many carrier systems which have been developed, right from the standard collagen sponges to nanofiber mesh, commercial silk, naturally available silk carrier systems, and so on. You can find a lot of them in the literature. What is usually used is the standard collagen mesh. Few important points while using BMP: there should not be any dead tissue in the surrounding area. You must do a thorough debridement and remove all the necrotic and sclerotic bone and soft tissue. The BMP should be concentrated locally in the defect area, and it should be in contact with the viable fragment of the bone. Fracture fixation should be done first, irrigation should be done first, and once you put the collagen sponge with a BMP product there, then after that you should not wash it off, because then obviously the dose of that BMP would reduce. There should not be any irrigation or drains kept near there. Realize that BMP is a biological adjunct. Even though it looks like a defect filler, it has no mechanical properties and it will not give you any stability. So your stability will have to depend on your fracture, the internal fixation or external fixation, and the BMP just serves as a biological adjunct for bone healing. Now, what is the clinical evidence for this? This was the best study, or what is the BMP evaluation study on tibial trauma, published by Govinder in JBJS A 2002. It was a multicentric prospective randomized trial for 450 open tibial fractures. And the results were all these. So there is a definite role of these products in fracture healing. Swiatkowski and Mackey in the same year published the same results, similar results for 3A and 3B open tibial fractures, and they all concluded that if you use it in compound fractures, after your debridement and all the procedures are over, then definitely the need for secondary bone grafting or secondary procedures is less. So this was in acute trauma. Evidence as far as non-unions is concerned, people have used it. Friedlander published a big trial for use in non-unions using the BMP-7. Again, it was a multicentric RCT on 122 non-unions in 2003 and found higher union rates. It has been used in scaphoid, in humeral non-unions, and Janudis in the injury 2007 also used it in pelvic non-unions and found 78% good results. So you have enough evidence to say that it can be commercially used in these situations. But it is not without problems. It's not a magic protein or anything. It has multiple side effects, the chief one being heterotropic ossification. And in this paper which Borai had published, they required to revise the procedure and excise the heterotropic ossified tissue in almost 6 cases. Other side effects are bone resorption. It can cause a reverse reaction by stimulating the osteoclasts, especially when used in cancellous bones. Local inflammatory and immune response, stimulation of cancer cells, and this comes from Cochrane database. So ultimately, as of today, evidence supports the use of BMP in atrophic non-unions only, and that too diaphyseal non-unions. Next, we come to the biophysical methods, which are based on the principle stated by Bassett, where he says that mechanical forces, when applied to healing bone, generate local electrical potentials which can cause cellular induction. And there are three methods by which you can do this: the electric, magnetic, and ultrasound. Electrical stimulation is again of 2 types, direct stimulation and pulsed electromagnetic stimulation. Both work on these principles. Increase in the production of BMP2 and BMP4. Magnetic stimulation increase the formulation of insulin-like growth factors which proliferates osteoblasts. But for both electrical as well as pure magnetic stimulation, there is insufficient clinical evidence to justify the clinical use. What has been studied extensively is ultrasound, and that too low intensity pulsed ultrasound, or LIPUS. It has been studied really extensively and reported for clinical use. The first clinical study was published by Xavier and Duarte in 1983, published in the Archives of Orthopedic Trauma Surgery. Basis is piezoelectric properties of the bone. Following are the mechanisms by which low intensity pulsed ultrasound works. It increases angiogenesis, chondrogenesis, and finally osteogenesis. So these are the methods and mechanisms by which low intensity pulsed ultrasound works. Again, going by the clinical evidence in acute fractures, Heckman published this for 48 tibial fractures in JBJSA, followed by Christiansen in 85 distal radius fractures, and Meyer in Journal of Hand, Microvascular and Plastic Surgery on scaphoid fractures. So this is the evidence in acute fractures, and this is the evidence in non-unions. You can see that good to excellent results are seen in various non-unions in various bones. Of course, most of them are from the upper extremity, and this led to Paul Tornetta and Mohit Bhandari publish a paper in British Medical Journal in 2009, where he meta-analyzed various studies on pulsed ultrasound and found that there is around 36% decrease in the healing times. Extended uses have been reported sporadically in the literature for high energy open tibial fractures, failed arthrodesis in Charcot's arthropathies, stress fractures of the tibia, and even infected non-unions. So you have enough evidence to support the use of low intensity pulsed ultrasound in acute trauma as well as non-unions, and it's been approved by FDA for use in 1994 in fresh fractures and 2000 in non-unions. It is available by the brand name Exogen in the market, and it is available as a home therapy. Chemical agents Simvastatin, which is a lipid lowering agent, is known to stimulate bone formation if applied locally, not if taken orally. Okay, this is the mechanism by it works and published already in Bone 2009, but the study was on the rabbits and sheep. It's not a human study. Few newer agents like the HE800 PRP, which has been now used almost everywhere, and a new compound called the N-methylpyrrolidone. These are being synthetically prepared compounds which you can use as injections or local applications for enhancing bone growth. However, there are no adequate clinical trials on human beings of these products as of now, and therefore not yet commonly used in clinical practice. Thank you for your patient hearing.